Yeah, on the same point, I think that's a very good point you made. And I would point out to you, Dan, that when you looked at your 2000 study, that the strongest association was found not with fine PM, not with sulfates, but with sulfur dioxide. And that when you did a joint pollutant analysis, the PM2.5 and the sulfate signal became statistically insignificant, and the sulfur dioxide signal remained robust and strong. And the repeated analysis of the ACS2 data, both by you and by Arden, simply did not acknowledge that fact and did not do any more joint pollutant analyses. And I've heard various explanations given for this, namely that sulfur dioxide is a precursor to sulfate and so on. But I don't understand why it would be a better marker for sulfate exposure than sulfate itself. And so that finding is an embarrassment to the PM mortality hypothesis, but it needs to be explained and has not yet been explained. And your 2009 HEI report was also criticized. I think one of the critical comments was that you didn't try any multi-pollutant analyses in that report. So I think that point really needs to be addressed.
We haven't yet published the results yet, Suresh, but one of my graduate students, Roxanne Lewis, did her thesis where what I challenged her to do was take the 6 criteria air pollutants and then say to herself, well, suppose PM2.5 is the primary pollutant, and let's adjust PM2.5 for each of the other 5 criteria pollutants and go through an exhaustive model building process to bring in all of the other individual and ecologic covariates. And then I said, now put that aside, that's chapter 1, and write chapter 2, assuming that ozone is the primary pollutant, and then bring in one at a time and then multiply the other co-pollutants and the other variables, and sequentially work her way through carbon monoxide, NOx, SO2, SOx. And she's done that, and actually I think that's exactly what you're wondering if you'd like to see those results. They are available in her thesis. We have a draft paper. It's quite an exhaustive analysis, and it's a little too complex for me to summarize here, and I don't have the paper in front of me. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I trust your analyses, Dan, but by and large, I don't like this trust me science. This is one of the reasons that data on which published peer-reviewed publications are based. And specifically, if those peer-reviewed publications are then used for regulation, those data should be freely available to all stakeholders. And these data sets have not been made available. That I think is an important consideration.
Okay, so can I go back to the sulfur dioxide issue, if I may?
Go quickly. I'm sort of promised Roger the next slot here. So,
well, basically, we did explain in the reanalysis report that the robustness of the sulfur dioxide effect is probably because it's an indicator of near-source industrial emissions, many of which would be particles with a high sulfur content. And that, I think, when people are in closer proximity, it has a much tighter range of variation, and it's a much better marker of immediate industrial emissions. So it doesn't necessarily discredit the PM hypothesis. I think it actually strengthens it. It just shows a different type of exposure metric is giving us more robust results.
Okay, and maybe just as a roadmap for the public, the discussion here is really about how do we know which of the different pollutants that people are breathing in is the important one, and we use these statistical tools. Are they helping us? To what extent are they helping us sort this out? Roger.